The topics that we left on the cutting room floor yesterday, which I was fascinated about. Mike Florio dropped a report. I think it's been 2 days ago now.
It was on Monday.
Okay, so it was Monday. He writes a story about how NFL owners pushed for the commissioner to suspend Deshaun Watson for 11 games, with the whole reason being that way the contract wouldn't roll over. If it was for a full season, the Browns would still have Deshaun Watson for 5 more after this year. So his article basically, I don't know, I don't want to call it a conspiracy theory because I'm sure he talked to some owners. But the story, the gist of the story is the owners pushed for 11 as a way to punish the Browns and make this year go away, and now they only have them essentially for 4 full seasons. Do you buy that report from Mike Florio?
I don't. People always, clickbait. This feels like clickbait to me. Obviously, I don't think Mike Florio made it up.
Right.
There's probably somebody did tell him this.
Yes.
But, we were hearing for months that the owners wanted 17. They wanted 17.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, it's 11. Now they wanted 11. I just don't buy that. First of all, if I get it from you would have him for 1 more year. But ultimately, if the Browns want to keep Deshaun Watson, he's going to stay here. Right? If they're winning and he's playing well and he's getting paid a ton of money and this organization stood by him big time when he went through all this, he's going to want to leave? So I think in the long run it's not going to matter. Plus, it does give them a better chance to make the playoffs this year. And if they do make the playoffs, they'll have a better chance to win it if he plays. If he was
and he will be allowed to play in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So
if he was suspended for the whole year, okay, yeah. It pushes back his contract a year, but you would have, I think, almost no chance to make the playoffs this year, and certainly no chance to win a Super Bowl.
But you would still have that 5th year of control,
right? But
down the road,
I just don't buy that. I don't buy that all these owners were like, we're going to punish them 5 years from now. They'll have to pay him even more money.
You're right.
To keep him. I think it's too much of a stretch.
Tyvis, what do you think?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I can see them saying do 11 games so the year count because it'll mess up the money a little bit. Obviously they will have less money moving forward if this year counts. So I can see them trying to, because at the end of the day, every owner is still mad at the Browns for giving, how dare you give a player something that he earned and he deserves, a fully guaranteed contract. Now we got to do it. So, of course, they are a little bitter about
There's
that.
Definitely animosity.
So I can
it's affecting the Ravens' negotiations with Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
And now, the Ravens have even come out publicly.
Yeah, now we got to come out and do something about this. Now we got our quarterback's going to expect to do it. You'd have messed up the whole market. So, punish the Browns a little bit. I can see that. That definitely could be a possibility.
What about you, G. Bush?
Man, I completely 100% agree with it. He's actually just putting the names to the faces with it, right? Listen, the NFL owners are, I'm not going to say they're racketeering, but the NFL owners don't move without nobody saying so, and they give the approval. The owners picked it what the suspension was going to be. They picked it, right? They said 6, that ain't good enough. And if it was going to be 6, 2 things happened. They these guys are still competitive. These guys can really come back and still win and make a dent in this thing this year. If it's 11, they got to pay him. 11, they got a backup quarterback. 11, people can say, oh, look at this. And 11 keeps us out of court. Because they wanted to go to court. They did not want to go to court because they had their stuff. But at the same time, they wanted enough games so it made it look like they was getting what they wanted to.
Maybe so, but don't you, as a Browns fan, wouldn't you rather him be suspended 11 than 17?
Well, I don't think 17 was on the page. I never thought 17 was on the books.
Well, but they could have if they wanted to.
And
the league had said publicly they wanted a year.
Here's what I think happened maybe. I think once they decided on 11, they said, here's a bonus. The Browns are going to be stuck that 5th year. Yeah. I don't buy that this was the intent the whole time.
Yeah, I don't. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of with G. Bush and Tyvis, and even a little bit with you. I think what happened here was the number one priority of certain owners was get this thing settled.
That's it.
It's not going to court because then our secrets are going to be dragged out into the public. We're settling one way or the other. So once they came to that agreement, I think then the options were 17 and 11. The same owners that wanted this settled so it wouldn't go to court were also terrified of 17 because 17 likely would have been appealed by the Players Association.
Right.
So it could have still ended up in court.
But it could have never been settled at 17 because Deshaun Watson's camp wouldn't have agreed to 17.
We don't know that.
Okay,
we don't know
that's
that.
my assumption.
Yeah,
we don't know.
And I don't know. And the reason I think the league was leaking that they were searching for indefinite, when you're in a negotiation, you leak what your absolute dream finality is. Knowing you're not going to get there, you're going to have to settle for the middle. Mm-hmm. The fact that they didn't say we want a year, to me, said, well, that's what they're going to settle on, a year. They're shooting for indefinite, scaring the Players Association and Deshaun, maybe coaxing them into settling for a year. I think there's this, and you said somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. I think there was a fraction, and we know this because just go talk to 100 Browns fans. You're going to find that this thing is split wildly. There are those that don't want Deshaun Watson on the team. There are those that say, who cares? We don't think he did anything wrong. He was not charged by the court of law. So we're fine with it. I think the same thing with the owners. If you were to poll the owners, some would have said, I want it indefinite. Some would have said, I wanted a year. Some would have said, I wanted 11. Just like the general population. It was all over the board. I think at the end, what we came up with was exactly what I had said before the settlement was, I think it's going to be something that neither side loves, but both sides can work with. And that's where we are.
In the end, the fact that he gets to play, obviously you wanted the 6 games. We got excited about 6 games. I still think it's at least a slight win for the Browns that he gets to play this year. It gives him a better chance.
Now, we could revisit that. If he comes back and they're 4-7, and this year is a complete and total loss,
or if he's so rusty by that point,
which he could be,
years that he doesn't play
and then what we're going to then it's possible at the end of the season or even before he comes back on the field, everybody's saying this. Wish it would have been a year.
Yeah.
Because
but at this moment, I'm glad it's not.
I mean, I wouldn't. No, that's not necessarily true because if he comes back and he's rusty, if he'd have missed 2 years, then he'd have been even worse.
True.
Yeah,
Good
that
point.
Is true. That is true. But next year he'll have the complete training camp and be able to play in the preseason game.
But he won't be able to be in a real.
So you're right.
Game.
There is some tangible benefit.
Even if they are terrible, he's still going to be playing.
Thinking about this, I went back to Frankie Lindor in the year that the Indians eventually brought Lindor up.
Yeah.
If you remember, they waited until, was it June 1st when the calendar starts ticking for the.
Yeah.
So they waited until after that, which would give them 1 extra year of control on on the back end of Frankie's deal because his major league clock didn't start ticking.
Sure.
And they ended up missing the playoffs by just a handful of games. Yeah. And once Frankie came up, the team went like this. So fans looked at it and said, we kind of cut off our nose to spite our face here.
Yeah.
Because we're probably not going to keep this guy long term anyhow.
Right.
So all we did is add a year to the back end of his deal that he'll never fulfill in Cleveland, which he ended up not.
Right.
And in the meantime, we missed an opportunity to try to seize on a World Series.
There's something I look at it with this. A lot of people think that he's going to come back and he's going to be rusty and a lot of these different things, and that could be a possibility. But for the league, it could be the worst option. If the Browns come out and they're in those first 11 games, they're 8-3, and now every single game they win, you know what the chatter is? This team looks great. Wait till they get Deshaun Watson. This team looks awesome.
That's true.
Deshaun Watson gets back.
To be fair, though, even in his first preseason game, them stats right there, 1 for 5. His first pass was the only pass that I was like, yeah, he rusty or he excited. But outside of that, everything else,
and you know what?
He moved well in the pocket. He threw the ball really well. They just
even
dropped
that first pass. First of all, it was a rollout left.
Yeah,
that's a difficult ask for a guy's first pass.
It definitely is.
And what always happens in the Super Bowl when it's the quarterback's first appearance in the Super Bowl, he overthrows it.
Yeah, that adrenaline.
I mean, when you're pumped, you do the same thing when you pitch. When you're pitching and your adrenaline is kicked, you're typically going to overthrow the ball. You're going to it's going to miss its target. It's going to miss high. That's exactly what he did. After that, the 1 for 5 is misleading.
It's skewed.
He had 2 drops and another one that could have been caught.
And y'all been watching football a while, right? I don't think in the context of the whole entire NFL, in the history of the NFL, there has ever been somebody as a quarterback who's come back to a contender team in a playoff run and he automatically starts. Usually, generally speaking, if you're injured, They don't bring.
You mean if they're coming back from an injury?
Yeah, coming or just.
Well, you think about
Drew Bledsoe never got his job back.
and neither did Alex Smith in San Francisco.
Alex Smith didn't either. There are others.
The gap between Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, are you insinuating that if
they could stick with Brissett?
No.
That there might be a decision to make?
No, what I'm saying is if they're 8-3, this is going to be one of the biggest stories because a quarterback, generally speaking, does not return in the middle of a year.
I got you.
That's
usually speaking, especially if it's a star. Like it would be the equivalent of Andrew Luck saying, "I'm coming out of retirement right now, and I'll be ready by week 11."
Yeah.
People would be like, "Whoa!"
By the way, if somehow the Browns are 8-3, I don't think any of us think they will be 8-3, but let's say they are. The defense is phenomenal. The running game's phenomenal.
Right.
Brissett's not turning the ball over. They're 8-3. There will be, I certainly will not be amongst them, but there will be a percentage of our fan base that will not want to start watching.
30%.
Listen, Captain Jack was on. You remember what he said? If they're playing well, there's going to be a decision, and I don't know that I would put him out there.
He said that. He did say that.
He said it on the show. And I was kind of like, wait a minute. I don't think anybody has even thought that that's a possibility.
Right. I wouldn't even consider not changing
you're
it,
absolutely right,
but
Bull.
there will be a fan.
The radio airwaves will be filled
Yes,
with
it
callers
will.
saying, why are you going to mess with this chemistry?
Yes.
And the story comes back, right? Because for a while, the Browns fans who don't want Deshaun Watson, they'll be silent because the season is here. There's nothing to talk about. But the second he comes back,
Yeah, you're right.
that's a part of it.
You're absolutely right.
The difference between a typical story in this one is that he will be back in the building with October 4th, 10th
Yeah.
or so.
10th.
So he'll be practicing and he'll
That's
be
true.
there and get the chemistry
Now,
down.
he'll be
So-
back in the building. He
practice
can't
starting
practice
the 10th.
until
Well,
November.
Yeah,
can't
well,
practice
he'll
till
be in the
November,
building.
But he'll be in the building.
Yeah.
His teammates will see him there.
And he will be practicing for a few weeks.
Few
before.
weeks
Yes, he gets
before
a couple
so,
weeks lead
yeah.
up before the Houston
But
game.
here's the thing. Part of the reason there will be, I agree, it's probably about 30% of the fans. Part of that is, and I've talked about this a lot over the years, we are a scared fan base.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
we are.
Cleveland fan base is a scared fan base.
Absolutely
They live
right.
in their fears.
Even
And
when things
so-
are going well.
Even when things are going well, they don't want change.
No.
Whenever I talk about the Guardians should make a trade, the Cavs should make I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah,
They're
right.
doing well. Don't mess with
Wait
it.
a minute.
And so rationally, you know that Deshaun Watson is a zillion times better than Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And yet there's going to be our fans that are scared. It's like, it's going well. I don't want to do anything. I'm like, well, but this guy's much better, so it will, in theory, go
let
even
me ask
better.
you this. So I think everybody has a number.
Yeah.
Is it 8-3? What if they're 9-2? What if they're 10-1?
I don't care if they're 11-0.
I don't care if they're 11-0.
If they're 11-0, you're going to
blame
change
Deshaun.
that.
I'm gonna tell you why.
See, I don't know.
No,
man.
Jay.
I don't know.
The chances of that are so slim.
I
that,
know it
you
is, but I just thought it would be a
If
fun
they are-
hypothetical to talk about, like, if they did get off to an 11-0
If they're
start.
11-0, I'm still making a change because this is the same fan base that's screaming it's Joshua Dobbs' season because of what he did in the
Exactly.
preseason.
So the
And Deshaun Watson is better than Joshua Dobbs, but they love the
yeah,
fact
you're
that
right,
he's
you're
low
right.
ball.
Breaking
He
news:
can do
Deshaun Watson better than Josh Dobbs. I'm clicking it.
Hold on. Let me ask Tyvis this. This is Tyvis. Y'all lived through this.
Yeah.
Y'all lived. You had Braxton Miller.
Yeah, we did.
He got hurt.
Yeah, he did.
You
man.
put JT Barrett in.
Yes, we did.
He balled.
He did.
Then Cardell Jones played for 4 games and killed it.
Yeah.
That next year, everybody was
Woo!
available.
Yeah, it was.
So when like
That was awkward.
So
It was.
when you
both of them are my dudes.
both of them. So when you see JT Barrett and he come back the next year, you like, but he was like
He was that deal.
He was the one of the player of the year in the conference.
I think he might.
He
have
was
been.
a player of the
I think he
year.
was.
But the Cardell Jones was like the MVP of like
Cardell
that
Jones
was
put
the-
the hottest
he
3
was
or
the-
4 game stretch together, maybe in
Cardell-
Ohio
it was
State history.
incredible.
It was like the Big Ten player or the guy that won the national championship. Like it's
Yeah.
So Urban Meyer actually in this case
had this decision.
picked Jacoby Brissett. He picked Jacoby Brissett.
He picked Cardell over JT.
And so it was like, okay, well, we go ride with it.
Well,
But guess what happened?
JT ended up
JT
back in the
back
role.
in that seat.
Right.
It
But
was,
to be fair, at the time, we didn't know there was that
At
big
the
a gap.
time the decision was made,
Was
off
tough.
the body of work we had to evaluate, there were a lot of folks that said Cardell Jones needs to go pro right now.
I was one of
I was
those.
about to say,
I
I'd
was
say
too.
about 98%
Because
of the world.
I was
All he
saying
could
that.
do is come back and hurt his stock.
And that's what happened.
What did he do?
Yeah.
Because his stock couldn't have been any higher.
Nope.
The
I
only
wonder
knock
where he
against
would
him
have been
was
drafted. had he come out then?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Some people say second round.
Some people say he was the third best coach. He'd have been the third best behind Jameis and Mariota. He'd have been the next guy. 'Cause I don't remember who the next guy was.
I'm sure there was a mix of. There were a lot of NFL GMs because when a player decides to do this, as you know, they talk to their head coach, they talk to NFL GMs, and there are a lot of other people that can. But I think there were a lot of NFL GMs that would look at Cardale and said, "We haven't seen him enough."
Yeah.
You know, and he came in and had an all-star team around him.
Yeah, he did.
It was a national championship team.
Yeah.
And he came in and he didn't screw it up.
And to be fair, he only had like 2 days to make the decision because we played the national championship, and I think the deadline was like 2 days later. So it was a quick
it was tough.
turnaround.
He was gathering information probably all during that time.
That you only have 2 days.
It
That's
was-
not
it
like
was-
2
or 3
It only
days.
really affects 2 teams because everybody else is done 3 weeks earlier.
Well, why does it need
2 weeks earlier?
I mean, can't you wait another couple of weeks?
Well, you know how that NFL clock goes. It goes so fast. I mean, they have literally the combine is
in February.
just after the college season ends.
Yeah.
And Cardale was in a particularly unusual spot because he was.
Hey.
It was just a couple of weeks. We didn't know how good he was, really.
Off topic here, but
Yeah.
should the NFL do what the NBA does? Well, what league had it where you could enter the draft?
The NBA.
NBA.
NBA, right?
You can enter, and if you ain't hearing good stuff, you can return back.
Maybe
to
the
Right.
NFL should do that.
They
I-
should.
I said that in the NBA, if you don't get drafted in the first round, you should be allowed to go back to college.
Well, they'll say that you didn't receive payments and you
But
didn't.
at
yeah,
this
but
point,
that's
who cares?
moot now.
No.
I guess now it don't matter.
Yeah, no, it
I
doesn't.
think in the NFL you should do the same thing. If you
I
don't get
like
drafted
that
by,
idea, Bull. I like
if
that
you don't get
idea.
drafted in the top 5 rounds, maybe in the NFL,
Yeah,
then
I
you
would say
can
3.
go back to college if you want.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But in
McNuggets-
Cardale's case, he would have been drafted top 3.
Yeah.
Right,
McNuggets
sure,
got
sure,
something for us.
McNuggets.
So to answer your question of who was the third quarterback in that draft, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Garrett Grayson.
That's what I
from
said.
Colorado
I
State.
couldn't
Wow.
forget something.
I never even heard of him.
He
He
lasted
should've
2
won.
years in the league before it got bummed. Sean Mannion was next, then Bryce Petty, Brett Hundley, Trevor Simeon.
Yeah, he would have been
Oh, my
third.
God.
That was-
Well, Hundley and Simeon are at least still in the league.
Man.
And we're going to get to Leroy in a sec. Before we get to Leroy, though, Jay mentioned working out earlier. He was skinny in high school. Well, Jay, you could have solved all your problems if you had a Built Bar back.
They didn't
That
have
was
them
your
back then.
fault. Built
have 'em.
Bar, if you haven't tried it yet, absolutely delicious. I got a whole box in. Me and Anthony have been snacking on them in the office upstairs.
I hear
Eventually
about
we'll
it.
bring them down for you, but you guys don't deserve
Slackers.
them. Guys. It's the reality.
We haven't earned it yet.
160
You haven't
calories,
earned them?
15 grams of protein. That's why me and Anthony are looking yoked. Y'all are looking small out there. We're like mini Leroys. We're just getting ready to be, when Leroy comes to town, take him over to the...
Very mini
That's a lot of
Leroy.
trash talking from
You're a
McNuggets
very
right
mini
there.
Leroy.
Between the three of us, we might be one Leroy. But either way, use promo code LOCKDOWN15 to get 15% off your offer at Built.com. Built Bars, if you're not eating them, you're stupid.
Now, Anthony,
Oh, my, is that their tagline?
Yes.
It is now.
yeah.
Built Bar. If you're not eating them,
You're stupid.
Now,
stupid.
Now, Anthony,